Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have back, returning, Miss Corbie Mitleid. And I think we talked about her abilities last time she was on. And now we're going to kind of get into some more, I guess, self-help, life coaching type stuff. She has a book. It's Cleaning Out Your Life Closet. We're going to talk about that. And hopefully she can get me on the right track anyway. How are you this morning?
Rocking and rolling, my friend. How are you?
Alive and kicking, as they say.
There you go.
So I've had several people on, and we talk about, getting your life together, becoming more successful, not necessarily. I guess when people hear successful, they think just money and all, but there's different aspects of your life that have to be cleaned up, and you have to be balanced. And tell me about your book and how, what I can expect from it to help me to get back on the right track.
All right. Well, I always say that I will give $50 cold cash to anybody in the world who can literally say and prove they have never bought a self-help book, because we all do. The problem is we are taught from childhood that we don't know enough, we can't trust ourselves, we have to ask the experts. So all of these self-help books we buy tell us what to do, and it rarely fits us. Recently, there was one book that said you can't eat food with leptin in it, and you have to get up at 4:30 every morning to do yoga. And, if you're a single mom with 2 preschool kids in Milwaukee and you have a job, screw that. It's not going to work. So the way I did my book is I based it on 4 things: clarity, adaptability, simplicity, and making friends with stress. Because those are the 4 things my clients come to me about over and over. But you write the book with me. Each chapter, here's some of the dumb things I did, and maybe here's a client story, and maybe here are some suggestions. But at the end of each chapter, you've got what I call the adventure pages. And the questions I ask, you can't go to page 89 in the book. Things like, think of a time when you knew you had to stand your ground on a belief, in a relationship, on self-care. How'd you do it? There are times for compromise and adaptability and times to stand your ground. How do you differentiate these for yourself? See, questions like that, you have to look at your own life, because that's where the lessons are, that's where the knowledge is, and that's where the strength lies. So at the end of this book, if you've done all the questions at the end of each chapter, that's become your own personal manual. And your buddy could buy the book on the same day and read it at the same pace. But if they do the questions, it'll be a different book for them. And that's valuable.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it that I read is more a reminder that I have the answers. I just forgot that I have the answers.
You talked about how the books teach you that you have your own answers,
Yes.
and that's absolutely true. But what we also have to do is trust the answers that we have internally.
Now, sometimes
the bad old books teach us not to. We must.
Sometimes, even though we tend to already have the answer, there's some things I guess we need a little push. We need that extra, how exactly do I do this? I argued with somebody the other day. I wouldn't say argue, but we had a pretty good discussion about, okay, if I don't know how to do this, then somebody needs to teach me. And they said, well, you already know how to do this. You just don't realize it. Well, that doesn't help me none. If that makes sense.
Look, sure does. I'm a good cook. And basically, I know how to make a beef stroganoff.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that I'm not going to take a look at 5 different cookbooks to see which one really sounds like the best recipe. Same thing for what we know how to do. We have the internal ability, but it's like clarity, focusing that telescope. Until we focus it on exactly how we want to do this, we think it's too fuzzy to do, and we leave it. And that whole big part of our knowing gets stuck on a shelf.
Well, and another thing is, like, say we already know the answer to some of these questions, but sometimes we're too stubborn to accept the reality, I guess you say. Like when somebody's really bad for you in a relationship, how many times we just keep going back and keep going back, even though we already know the outcome? How do you get past that stubbornness?
Well, you have to understand that everything we do is because we think it's going to make us happy. If we are in a bad relationship, we see more chance for happiness sticking with the devil we know than ditching them and going out and maybe never being with anybody or doing it again. So part of the reason we stay stuck is mere exhaustion. All right. It just seems so hard to change. You can change in an instant. It's how you think. Okay. And we may have gone through this last time. I don't remember. What am I X about? X is the emotion. Why am I X about that? What do I think would happen if I stopped being X about that? Let's take the bad relationship. What am I afraid of? That if I leave John, I'll be alone. Why are we afraid of that? Because we don't believe that we're really lovable, and John at least puts up with us. What do you think would happen if we stopped being afraid about that? Maybe we'd go find somebody better. How does that sound to you? Sounds pretty good. So when you can lead somebody out of the stuck and show them they're allowed to change what they want, that's when things move forward.
Well, they have to want to change. That's the problem.
Yes.
There's a solution to this. You just have to want it. That's like we were talking the other day about it's staying at a job that you don't like. Well, you're comfortable. You already know, even if your performance is not the best at this job and your boss is on you, you still know where you stand with this person. And we talk about, okay, well, why wouldn't you want something that that's better, that makes you happier? Well, that's unknown. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but yeah,
no, it doesn't.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't have that certainty when you're in that happy mode, because you never know when that's going to be taken away from you. And at least if you're upset or you don't like something, you already know that, and I guess you're comfortable with that.
It's the difference between humans and dogs. You ever hear the shtick about the dog's diary?
No.
Okay, this is the thought patterns of your typical golden retriever. Woke up this morning, my favorite, had breakfast, my favorite, going for a walk, my favorite, bath bubber, took a nap, my favorite. Notice the dog's in the moment. The dog does not go, oh, look, it's my favorite breakfast. It's Beneful Beefies, but I can't eat this morning because I have a bath at 10. That's human. So if we would learn to live more like a dog and less like a human, we would probably be happier, and we would move forward because everything's been great. Happy, 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 happy. Well, what's next? Instead, humans tend to dwell on their misery. Part of it is because we live in a victim society, because we're afraid that if we're happy, we'll be ignored. But if we're miserable, then we get some sympathy, we get some attention.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have noticed that when you are happy, you don't get the attention like you do when you're miserable, and then people are always, oh, what's wrong, and what can I do to help? When you're happy, you kind of blend in. You're unhappy, you stick out.
And in an environment where people are victims, they don't want you happy because that points out how unhappy they are. But misery loves company. If you're miserable, then they can either one up you with how miserable they are and put the attention back on them, or they can feel superior. But when you're happy, you don't need them to give you anything. And they say, well, what am I here for?
Well, yeah.
I know humans, their brain pans, they're just skewed. They really are. When you accept that the moment is where you are, the moment's your power, then you're not reliving the misery that you had as a kid. You're not afraid of what's going to happen in 5 years. This is your PowerPoint. That's where happy lies.
I don't know. It's just so weird because, even as a child, okay, people are like, why does this kid keep acting up? Well, even that negative attention is still attention, and you get more attention when you're acting up than you do if you're just behaving and playing and having a good time. So do we crave attention that much?
Some people do, yes. But the other thing is a lot of kids are rebellious because they're never listened to, they're talked at.
That's true.
Those 3 questions, let's use it for a kid. All right. Joshy comes home and he's kicking things and he goes, I hate my teacher. Normal mom would say, you shouldn't hate your teacher. And, oh, I'm sure it's not that bad, completely negating what the kid is feeling. The smart mom looks at him and says, what are you upset about? And Joshy says, she gave me double homework. Bad mom or usual mommy. Well, there's a reason for it. Well, then you'd better get in and do it. Smart mom. Why are you upset about that? Because it's a lot of stuff and maybe I won't go out, get it to go out to play before dinner. Well, that's tough, blah, blah, blah. No. What do you think would happen if you stopped being upset about that, Joshy? I don't know. If you had to guess is magic. Because people say, I don't know, when they're afraid to be wrong. If you had to guess, takes that off and you're going to hear what the real answer is. Joshy says, maybe I could finish it. Okay, Joshy, you want to try? Yeah. And so Joshy goes in, finishes his homework, does go out to play. But the most important thing is his emotions are validated. He is told he's allowed to feel what he feels. And he is given an opportunity to change his actions and his beliefs. That creates one confident child. And if we were more confident, we would not, as adults, be looking to constantly please other people or trying to second guess what they're thinking to see if we can figure it out so we're happy. When we know who we are and we can figure things out the way Joshy is being taught, we are in our power at all times, and we are never a victim, ever.
Yeah, I don't know why we have to be such victims all the time. I find myself sometimes doing the same thing where I'm looking to get sympathy from, say, my wife or something. So I'll throw in how miserable I'm feeling that day or something just to get that extra attention, extra sympathy. We're strange creatures, aren't we?
We feel like if we love ourselves, A, we're selfish, B, we're stupid, and the only love is that's worth anything is somebody else's, which is exactly not true. Until we learn to love ourselves, well, nobody's love is going to be good enough for us. We won't let anybody in to love us. And then we look at how miserable we are and we perpetuate the cycle. Everything starts with us, everything.
Is it the fact that we all seem to be narcissists?
No, a narcissist, it's all about them and they don't care about anybody else. Most of us are not that bad, okay? There's a difference between narcissism and ego, all right? Do I have an ego? Yeah, I know how good I am. I've been reading for 50 years. So I don't need anybody else to tell me I'm good or to really even acknowledge I'm good. I settle with that, and I can turn right out and say, how can I support you? What do you need today? I don't need anything. I have lots of surplus to give, not out of guilt, not out of martyrdom, but I am in such a comfortable and happy place with myself. Sure, I can help. And if I can't, I'll tell you. But it's not something that makes me more or less valued in my own mind. We look to other people to tell us, what's my value? Am I worth anything? No, you need to know that here. And narcissists, they have balloon egos. The bigger they are, the easier it is to pop them, which is why they keep pushing at people so that you can't get near them with that pin to call them on it.
Mm. Yeah, I know someone that has been in a relationship that the person they're in the relationship with, they're always accusing them of cheating, and he doesn't want them to go anywhere or do anything, not with family or friends. They now they'll go do whatever they want to do, and then of course you know that they're out running around with somebody else. And now it's gotten to the point of, I'm going to delete myself if you don't stay with me. And it's a never ending pattern. Now the person that they're doing this to is got a very kind heart, always trying to do for other people, doesn't really emotionally doesn't do for themselves. No.
They don't know how is part of the problem.
So how do we get them out of that thought pattern though?
We don't, they must. We can demonstrate to them that there is something else. But it's like with me and my clients. Some of my clients are ready for change, and we look at something and they work on it and they come back and life has changed. And now what can I do? They're happy, they're eager. But there are some clients that come to me once a year, and it is always the same questions, and it is always the same problems, and it's always the same victim act. After they do that 3 times, I'm like a good bartender and I cut them off, because it's clear they're wasting my time and their money, and they have no intention of changing. All they want is sympathy and to be told they're nice people and it isn't their fault.
So
I don't have time for that.
Instead of change, they're just wanting validation in what they're already doing. That's ridiculous.
Of course it is, but they don't see that.
I mean, granted, I know I've got a long way to go on my journey, but it's never ending. You can always improve some kind of aspect in your life.
You can.
I was told, you need to be ready to receive the good things in life, that I've pretty much been rejecting. I guess to stay in that victim mentality, or to because I'm used to being let down, or not on the level that I should be. I wanted
to ask you, what do you think would happen if you started accepting the good things?
Then I'd start being happy.
How does that feel to you?
That's that butterfly feeling I was telling you about last time we talked, that I get in my gut. Yeah. I'm ready to accept it, but then when I say the words, but it's almost like my mind is telling me the opposite. How do I change that?
You change that by looking at your mind and saying, what do you think would happen if we? When we, for decades, have a certain way of behaving, it's lovely to think that one mind change and it all gets better. But sometimes it's more like you're a sculptor and there's this block of marble, and there's a camel in there somewhere and you want to get the camel out. So you start chipping away and eventually you have a camel. But you can't look at it, say, that point, boom, everything falls apart and there you have a camel. Okay? So The most important thing is don't give up on yourself. Believe in yourself. The most important 4 words in the world don't have I love you in them. Everyone says that's the most important. No. The most important 4 words in the world are I believe in you. Because
It's got power.
when you believe in someone, you absolutely love them. But we can love somebody and not believe in them. We all have those friends and we love them to bits, but they always promise things that they never come through with. One of my closest friends, she's been gone a couple of years, would promise the moon, and I would give her the ability to do whatever she said she was going to do for me, and it never happened. You know, I gave her beautiful costumes to alter for me. They're gone because when she died, her husband has no idea what to do. Her husband is a hoarder. So I'll never see those again. But, you know, lesson learned. You can love them, but not trust them, not believe in them. But when you believe in someone, you absolutely love them.
Yeah, that's true. There's people that I really love with all my heart, but I don't exactly, because I know their pattern, and I I kind of already know the outcome, and that I want to. I guess maybe if I just go back and say I believe in you, maybe that'll flip a switch. I don't know.
Try it. But if you don't believe in them, don't say it. Okay.
And that's that I guess law of attraction thing. When you go out and you say something, but you actually mean something else, you're attracting the thing that you that you didn't want.
That's right. The universe is a short order cook with no imagination, so order right the first time. That's what you're hearing.
Now, when people procrastinate, that's just another excuse to not change, right?
Yeah. What if I can't change? What if I change wrong? So it's the difference between a writer and an author. Okay. There are a lot of people that are writers, but they never get past the first chapter. Oh yeah, I'm still writing my novel. An author has completed it and got it out there. Doesn't mean that a big publishing company picked them up. Maybe they self-published like I do, but the book is out there. They're an author. So much of our life, we're writers, not authors. We don't finish what we are and present it to the world. We keep saying, well, it'll get there, it'll get there, it'll get there. Never does.
And another thing people seem to want to believe in is luck. Now, to me, it was explained to me a different way. It's having to do more with opportunity than it does with any kind of luck. You make your own luck. That is it. Do you have to use maybe like I guess you'd say a placebo type thing or
Dumbo's feather?
yeah, like Dumbo's feather, right? Or is it break free from that kind of mentality?
Well, what is luck? I mean, it takes luck and maybe a little pre-birth planning to win the lottery, but that's a lightning strike kind of thing. And not winning the lottery doesn't mean you don't have any luck. People look at me and say, God, you must be lucky to have a career doing what you're doing. No, part of it is the sheer joy. And it's the difference between when you're walking and you're depressed and you're looking at the ground, you might slam into a lamppost. When you are happy and you're up and you're looking around, wow, that's the place that I've been wanting to go to for 2 months, and you go in. Was it lucky that you saw it? No. You were happy and up and observant. Observation is one of the things that brings luck, because when you were miserable, that shop that you wanted to go to was right there, but you weren't looking. You didn't pay attention. You weren't open to it. Luck is being open to the universe saying, here, try this. When we think of ourselves as we're never lucky, the universe is saying, never has any luck, ordering.
you got what you asked for.
Makes a difference. Yes, how we think makes an enormous difference.
Let's see, that's another thing, is the way you look at things. We were talking about how you've got the optimist and the pessimist, and how they look at a glass. It's either half full or half empty. Well, yeah, I totally get that. The way you look at things definitely changes or has an effect on your attitude.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the glass is not half empty or half full. It's refillable.
True.
That's the key. Whatever it is at the moment is where it is at the moment. What do you want it to be? That's why it's refillable. That's the optimist.
Well, if my grandson's around, he's going to spill it. So the whole living in the moment, I never really understood what that meant. But when we went to the river and we were walking along, and you noticed that the leaves were starting to finally grow on the trees, and the animals were coming out a lot more, and you notice that moment. And when I say notice, I mean you actually are paying attention to everything that's going on around, and then you start to get this feeling of joy. And that's the way we should be living our lives. But we're always
100%.
Either we're looking at what happened to us 10 years ago and waiting to see what's going to happen to us, a year from now, instead of being right then and there. But look what you miss when you're not in the present.
Same thing with multitasking. You're trying to do 5 things. You're not experiencing any of them. So
I guess that's why we get so frustrated then.
Yes. It's the old Buddha saying, when you sleep, sleep. When you eat, eat. Just be in that one pointed focus and savor where you are. You'll live a lot more thoroughly that way.
The people that like doing the multitasking and all that stuff, I guess it's not so much that they're good at doing multitasking, it's they don't have to think about that one specific thing. I hope I'm getting my point across.
You are. And sometimes they're so afraid they won't get everything done and no one will help them hand in hand. So they're always doing.
And people are always afraid of that rejection if they do something wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a purpose of, if you do something wrong, it proves that you're doing something. Because okay, let's say
I agree with you, but no, that's not the wisest thing.
Well, like at work, the guys that work hard and are always doing, they're the ones that'll get in trouble first because they made the mistake. And then the people that aren't doing anything, well, they're not getting in trouble because they're not making a mistake. That's because they're not doing anything. But we think, and I guess that's another thing. I mean, besides ourselves, and you can't change how other people feel or think, they should stop and think about that too. It's I don't know if you'd say it's a catch-22 or damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing.
So just do. If it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, just do it. Live. Don't live your life gray. Don't live your life small. Yeah. Because we reincarnate, but the recipe we have only comes around once. What you don't do in this life, this personality will never get to do. So do it.
Like in the Bible, it says, I would rather you be hot or cold than lukewarm, because that's when you want to spew the drink out of your mouth, is if it's lukewarm and not hot or cold. We got lots of changing to do.
God, yes. God, yes.
And we have to allow other people to make mistakes too. I guess because I care so much for someone, so like my child, that when they make a mistake, I get upset because I can't think of them any other way but being perfect, if that makes sense.
Think of them as a soul on the road, and sometimes we stumble and sometimes we go off into the weeds, but eventually we get back on the road. Mistakes are important for a child to make without constant correction, or they're going to be afraid. My stepdaughter, when she was a child, her mother always, the minute she made a mistake, oh, you can't do that, let me do it for you. And so now she's afraid to live. Anything, she figures anything she does is going to be wrong, so she just stays this small.
Well, it's
That's,
not
yeah.
it's
Keep
not
going.
it's not impossible to get out of this mode. It's just a matter of you have to do it. I've been fortunate enough that and mind you, I've made this my own luck, I guess you'd say, is I get out and I message people. I get like on Podmatch or other little apps to find people that can be on the show, but reaching out, and I meet so many different people with great advice, and I take a little piece of each person that I talk to, and it's helped me to realize where I've been lacking and my wrong mentality, and it's helped me to turn things around. I mean, I'm not superhuman. I'm still going to have those days that I have my doubts and I'm thinking the wrong thing, but for the most part, you can change that mentality if you just try. And you're going to make mistakes. I mean, good Lord, like when you're learning how to walk as a child, how many times do you fall over and stumble until you finally got it right? But you have to make those mistakes.
Yes. And the child is applauded when he takes 2 steps and falls, because the adults recognize it's the beginning of a journey.
Yeah. That's the same thing with this show. I mean, good Lord, how many mistakes have I made through the last few years? And but I've learned from it and I've improved on myself. We have to be willing to take criticism too. That's another thing. Good Lord, you see these folks that get some kind of bad comment on their social media post or on a video and they just fall apart. I actually laugh. I get
you know, it's funny you say take criticism. I would change one word. That's what everyone says. You got to take it. How about we change the word take for consider? I'll consider the criticisms you're making. Then I'll decide, do I agree with them or not? And that's how I'll act. Taking criticism says, I have to listen to you. Yeah, I'm wrong. No, I'll consider what you say. You're allowed to listen and not agree. You are. So,
I mean, yeah, I understand it. The wording, it's all in the wording, but
I told you words are my drug of choice. I'm always going to, nitpick on the words.
Oh, I hear you. Oh, I'll tell you, I have a friend of mine and he's an older gentleman. He's in his 80s. And I said a sentence I said a sentence wrong the other day. Look, I'm already tongue tied. And he got mad. And I'm like, why is he getting so upset? And he corrected my grammar, but he's used to being on stage and, everything had to be proper when he was on stage. And
sounds like my dad. Dad was a grammar nut.
It's not that big a deal for me, but to each his own. Everybody has their little quirks and things. It's all a part of who you are. Some things are more an emphasis for you than other things. But now my train went off the track again. That's what happens when I go down a rabbit hole. I forget what my other point was.
Look, Cal, you and I both said last time we could talk about things for hours. We really could.
Yeah.
So maybe this is just a conversation we keep needing to have and bring to your folks once a month. We take one section of the book.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we should kind of break it down by chapter or something and talk about each one. And I think those help a lot more because you're focusing on one thing and then instead of everything at once. I was doing a series on the Wizard of Oz, and I could tell you the whole thing at one time, summarize it, but you won't get the gist of it unless you go on the actual journey and adventure with Dorothy, if you know what I mean.
Sure. So I'll make that deal with you and your listeners, that I will come back, and one time you and I are going to talk about adaptability. One time you and I are going to talk about simplicity. One time you and I are going to talk about clarity. And then the next time we'll talk about stress. How's that?
That works for me. Well,
Super.
if anybody has anything that they would like to hear about and want the discussion topic to be on, write it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know if this is helping. I know it helps me. I have to be reminded, as much as I want to be that perfect person that has all the answers. I'm not perfect, but at least I'm going on the journey and helping you find the answer. I just want to let everybody know, thank you for stopping by, and I hope that you will come back. And Corbie, I appreciate you being on. And
It's always fun. I love being here, Kyle.
We'll do this again. And
as we say in New York, we'll talk, we'll have coffee.
And in Boston, we'll take my car.
Yeah, we'll take the car to Harvard.
But anyways, thanks everyone for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, thank you. And I hope you'll come back. Please subscribe. For those of you who are regular, I appreciate your support, because it's because of you we do what we do. And so until the next one, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network,